To celebrate the 100th episode of the Divergent Mind, I have two things I would like to share with you today. The first is the Divergent Mind Meditation podcast. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or the app that you listen to your podcast on. And I have a guest host for today's podcast. Today's guest host is Jimmy Murray. Jimmy has offered me continuous encouragement to continue my podcast and has been a great support to me. And I encourage you to support Jimmy by following his Twitter feed at the Jimmy Murray.
Hey there, I'm Jimmy Murray, Florida-based comedian, YouTuber, Instagrammer, podcaster, really any social media platform thing. I also am very active on Twitter, and people are very surprised when I tell them that I actually suffer from social anxiety. You see, I'm the most personal person that I know. I can make friends extremely easily. I have a awesome tendency to listen to others, and I'm always 3 steps ahead in the conversation usually, which is great because I treat every conversation like a Johnny Carson, Jimmy Fallon, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien type interview, my goal being to entertain. However, it's actually painfully hard for me to go out sometimes, a lot of the time. In fact, I really have to convince myself, almost running a cost-benefit analysis, that it's worth it at the time. I am part of a local guild, for lack of a better term, of podcasters in the area, and I'm in similar groups in other areas like artificial intelligence and YouTubing, and it really is a fantastically awful struggle for me to have to mentally prepare myself to interact and engage with people. And the first thing that I often think is there something fundamentally wrong with me? And that's probably the struggle for the first third of my mental wrestling. The second 2/3 being comprised of, is this worth it monetarily? And then is this worth it on kind of a social optic scale? And if you've ever suffered from any of this, I'd love to hear from you and talk about whatever strategies you've used in order to make things better for yourself. But I'd like to explore some of the strategies and methodologies that I've used in order to really make every social situation worth it in its entirety. And for me, there's the physiological side of it. So I try to have a fantastic diet and exercise regimen. I find if I'm not working out, I'm probably suffering from withdrawals from working out, and then I'm feeling bad about working out. And I would say that probably 25 to 30% of my social anxiety comes from just a staggering lack of body image. I'm about average for the American male, but I feel like that's not good enough. That's not good enough whatsoever. That I need to have a six-pack, that I need to have the biceps and the beach muscles before I can go outside. And this thing about not being good enough before I go out really leads to the second point, is staggering lack of self-worth, which is pretty ironic given the following I have been able to build on social media, all from the inside of my house. As I don't have a car, which is probably a fundamental problem with me. It's a logistical issue that I've been able to overcome with services like Uber and awesome roommates. But just a fundamental sense of self-worth really holds me back. And to overcome that, I use the affirmation strategy that I read. I believe it was in a Scott Adams book. He wrote the Dilbert comics, and he would just, as he was struggling to really get his comic off the ground and get the courage to send it to the, I believe it's called the Universal Media Syndicate. They do all the newspaper comics. He just wrote to himself 10 times every day, I am Scott Adams, I am Scott Adams, I am awesome, I am awesome. And so for me, I like the double thumbs. I like looking at myself in the mirror, just giving me the double thumbs and telling myself that I'm a winner and that I can be winning. And ultimately, that leads to strategy number 3, is that I think if I'm not making these appearances, then I'm holding the world back. So it's a way to hold myself accountable and connect me to the bigger picture. And that leads to my final motivational post that I'm going to give you here in this episode, is that you are awesome and you are needed, and don't be afraid of anything. Again, I would love to hear from you. If these are strategies you've used, or if you've used different or better strategies, let me know. I'm on Instagram at @AWhileJimmyAppeared, and I'm on Twitter at @TheJimmyMurray. And just take care of yourselves and stay fantastic. Stay awesome.